What's happening, everybody? We are here on a Sunday. This is not my typical show. Nevertheless, I am here. I hope you guys are doing fantastic on this Sunday. I don't know where you are, but I'm in Richmond, Virginia. It is a beautiful day outside. The title of this video may not get many views, but this video is not one of those videos that are set for views, nor is it an analysis of a news tidbit, which usually what I'm doing. I read your comments, and in reading the comments, some I respond, some I don't, but I do read them. And in reading them, my assumption is if one person has a point of view, then other people may have that point of view also. Now, one comment doesn't necessarily move the world, but obviously, if I'm focusing on one, there's something in me that focused on it in lieu of every other comment. Someone pointed out in one of my other videos that I was simping for Trump. Now, I didn't know what that meant. I had an idea of what it meant, but I had to actually look up what that means, simping for Trump. So I did a search. Google, riddle me this. What does simping mean? What does simping mean? Somebody call me simping. Okay, fair enough. Simping is a slang term that describes someone who shows excessive admiration or sympathy for another person in hopes of romantic attention. All right. Let me say outright, I am not trying to stick my dick into Trump. Under no circumstances am I trying to put my penis into Donald Trump, meaning nothing to do with any kind of romantic thing for Trump at all. I don't even like Trump, let alone trying to stick my dick into Trump. But I realize that if somebody is coming away with that assessment, it's very possible that others may have that point of view. And so I thought I'd do a video talking about it. Normally, I don't necessarily talk direct to the audience. Every so often I may engage. But this is a little bit different, slightly different. I thought, okay, well, give my point of view and give my intention. And at the very least, the audience can make an assessment on whether or not I'm accomplishing that objective. All right. When I get it, right? For people who are in this kind of two-party system, Democrat and Republican, if you focus on one party, some people who are in the context of that system may think that by definition of you focusing on one, meaning putting a knife in one, means that the other one is made of solid gold and that you believe that the other one is made of solid gold. That is not my assessment. And frankly, putting a knife in one political figure doesn't, the volume is weird, doesn't in any way change, there we are, doesn't in any way change my thinking in regards to the other. I want to make that clear right off the bat. Meaning me putting a knife in a Democrat doesn't in any way at all means that the Republican is awesome. Full stop. It's just that I'm putting a knife in that Democrat. Now, I wanted to make that clear first because I wanted to be understood where I'm coming from in the way that I think about this. So let's nail that part down. The other part to this is you must understand from my point of view, I have a set of political values, and those political values don't change dependent upon the political parties in the way that they do for political parties. Meaning for a Democrat or for a Republican, whatever happens is relative. Meaning you can have a position that a Democrat will take, that Democrats get taken out of office, and then they'd be against the same position when the Republican is in office. I've seen this with my own eyes between Bush, Obama, Trump, Joe Biden, and then back to Trump. That is not the way I think. I want healthcare, education, expansion of Medicare. I want a system where when people get old, they are taken care of, especially after using all of their physical abilities over the course of their lifespan. That doesn't change. And that just doesn't change. This is not something that I can get out of either political party. More to the point, or to make this even clearer, some of this has to do with where I worked. Because where I worked, it wasn't about an individual political party. It was about world politics. meaning you perched at the edge of the world looking at events, not just in America, but all over. And one of the things that happened over the course of the time I was at that job at the radio station is that I saw this country and the way it gets involved into conflicts. And not just the way it gets into conflicts, and not conflict in this kind of ethereal sense, but in a sense of people dying and dying en masse. I was at the radio station when the pipeline was blown up. And the response was, well, obviously, Russia blew up its own pipeline. I was at the radio station when over and over again, where overtures were made in order to prevent a conflict, by the way, that we were starting by getting closer and closer to the Russian border. I was there when the war started. And as I'm sitting there watching it, I found myself shocked. Now, that may be naive, but it is true. I was astonished that people were actually shooting each other in the face over this kind of NATO expansion to the border without an honest assessment of how the war started. And I sat there watching this like, oh my God, this is a modern war. And what I mean by modern, I mean mechanized, tanks, bullets, guns, missiles, aircraft, etc. And I say that to say that there's a difference between, let's say, a minor skirmish and a modern war. This is World War II stuff that's effectively taking place in modern day. I watched as the Democratic Party under Joe Biden, under Obama, A, knock over the government of Ukraine. There's that. But two, on top of knocking over the government, have a completely dishonest assessment of how it started and why it was propagating. And I watched the political class in this country applaud. Not just applaud, but say, we don't talk to dictators, unprovoked attack, all of the stuff that was being said. None of it was honest. Most of it, and a lot of it, was coming out of Democrats. Yes, Republicans were on board for it. By the time you got to Trump, though, Trump was running in the election effectively saying, I'm going to end this war. Now, whether he was serious or not, one guy wanted to end a conflict where hundreds of thousands of people were being killed for literally no good reason. The other side is like, we're with you for as long as it takes. So one side wants to keep a war going and may end us into a larger conflict where we ourselves are directly engaged in direct fire. Whereas the other side is like, these wars are a waste. I'm sick of these wars. I want to stop these wars. That's what I'm left with. Now, if my value set doesn't change, and my value set is what it is, my mama ingrained it in me, it is what it is, then what am I to do with that? Neither political party is going to get me to where I want to go in regards to domestic policy. And when I'm looking at the world overall, then I see one political party seems to be for forever wars, meaning Kamala Harris had no interest in ending the war in Ukraine. Kamala Harris wasn't going to be willing to talk to Kim Jong-un in order to kind of make amends in that area of the globe, as opposed to him firing missiles in the Sea of Japan. Kamala Harris looking at Viktor Orban as a dictator. And again, Kamala Harris had no interest in even having a Palestinian on the Democratic stage when you had like 30% in some of these states of people saying, I'm uncommitted because you are going with this genocidal policy in Palestine. What am I to do with that? Now, when Trump was engaged, Trump said, I'm going to end the war, even the war in Gaza. If I am counting the number of people who are being killed from U.S. policy, and I'm looking at the context of Democrats who are looking at this and seemingly perfectly okay with status quo, whereas the other side is saying, these wars are a waste. What am I to do with that? Meaning, I can be honest with you and point out, hey, if Trump does this, this is good. That's not me simping for Trump. That's me being honest based on my own value set in regards to what I think is better in the world versus what I think is worse in the world. And frankly, I think this notion of people being killed en masse is a worse outcome. Me saying that, just to be clear, doesn't make it like Donald Trump is, fantastic or awesome. It's just that particular policy that he has is good if he can do it. That's not simping. That's being honest. That's just being honest. Now, if I do a story putting a knife in Donald Trump, that doesn't mean that Democrats are awesome. I'm trying to make that clear, right? Because I don't want this assessment of Jamal is changing his content because Donald Trump is elected. My content has always been my content. My point of view has always been my point of view. My focus may have just shifted somewhat just because I went from dealing with this kind of domestic news to international news when I was at the radio station. That was kind of my job. But my view is the same. Not simping, not grifting. My point of view is my point of view. If Trump does something good, I have zero issue in saying so. And I know that's different than some lefties who, maybe a Young Turks type environment or Sam Cedar type environment. There's a very specific point of view that they aim. And they tend to be these kind of democratic adjacent organizations in the way that they operate, in the way that they function. That's not the way I think. From my point of view, if you do something good, I say, hey, that's good. If you do something bad, I put a knife in you. It's just that. And it's purely and entirely based on my value set, which just so happens to find itself fixed on the left. Just want to make that clear. I don't want this video to be long. Yeah, I don't want this video to be long. I saw that talk and I was like, is this really the point of view? Like, is it really, you do one video and maybe a few, depends on topic. And this is the way you go with it, or this is the point of view that's effectively given. Look, I would admit that I do focus on Democrats very much. And part of the reason I focus on Democrats much is because I have no expectations for the Republican side. But the Republican side doesn't necessarily offer anything that I want, if that makes sense. Short of Trumpism's anti-military thing, or not anti-military, but at the very least, willingness to have conversations with countries in order to bring down hostilities. No, it is Democrats that go with this idea that they're holding the banner of FDR. And in holding the banner of FDR, that they care about healthcare, education, that they care about, care for the elderly, that they care about increasing to the minimum wage. They hold the banner saying, these are the things that we believe in. Fair enough. Fair enough. But if you believe in those things, then I am not wrong in pointing out that you don't seem to actually do those things. There may be people who are quote unquote simping, grifting, believing wholeheartedly that the Democratic Party actually believes that stuff because that's the banner to which they carry. I have no such belief. And not just have no such belief. I may believe that the people who believe in it. But at the point where you get to Democratic leadership, not so much. They're governed by the same rule set that governs the Republican Party. The only difference is they need to find ways to, what's the word I'm looking for? They're stuck in a contradiction. In one sense, they need to take money and use that money in order to get elected. Are you really going to give them money if indeed you don't need the things that they're offering? So for Democrats saying, hey, we're going to offer healthcare, education, we're going to offer increased minimum wage. And I am a millionaire, I am a billionaire. You're calling me, asking me for money, and you're telling me that these are the things that you're going to do, things that I myself can do for myself. I'm going to tell you kick rocks. Kick rocks. So they're stuck in that box. And because they're stuck in that box, they've decided to go with this idea of DEI, or they've decided to go with this idea of, well, we're going to use identity as the thrust of our argument as we operate. Because using identity, we don't have to do anything that's going to deal with the economic realities that people are effectively dealing with. We're going to dig into identity. So, hey, you black guy, you Asian guy, you trans person, you whatever. Your identity matters. It's important. It's vital to you. And it being important and vital to you, this is going to be the thing that we hold up as our banner. And if that banner is attacked, you're going to feel it that much more, because any attack on it is an attack on your identity in and of itself. Now, the reason I point this out is because I'm trying to say that they're using this in lieu of economic populism, because the economic populism deals with issues of economy and, for that matter, deals with issues of people's wallets. And for all intents and purposes, the people who Democrats are getting money from do not want you touching their wallet. It's contradiction. How can you be the lefty party that is dependent on the rich to get elected and still put through those lefty bona fides unabashedly? And the answer is you cannot. So they don't. And they found something else in order to run with. Now, me looking at this, I say to myself, okay, well, you putting in somebody black doesn't necessarily mean that what they're going to do as a political policy is going to benefit me. Or you putting in somebody Asian, or you putting in somebody Hispanic doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to help those particular communities. And more to the point, this stuff, reading on some of the letters or some of the reports that are coming out, it's talking about the backlash that was felt because they took that policy, as opposed to taking the policy of, let's say, something like, economic populism that doesn't necessarily cut people up into these bite-sized entities, and instead deal with people at the level to which those people care about. How much money do I have in my pocket? Can I pay for my kid? Can I pay for my house note? When I get old, is there going to be some system in place when I can no longer work that's going to ensure my well-being is intact? People care about those things. And so you could say, well, that person is gay, that person is straight, that person is white, that person is black, that person whatever. But all of those people, regardless of their identities, the key point is that they require a certain amount of economy for them to function. And so this notion of breaking people up into these little categories is a pointless endeavor. Yeah, the Hispanic person may care on some level about people being deported, or the black person may care on some level about prisons. That's so racist, but that's what they always bring up. But in real terms, the overwhelming majority of the people want to be able to pay their car note, pay their house note, buy their groceries, and have a decent living as they get older, afford their health care. I would argue that health care should be government run, but whatever. They need to be able to do those things regardless of their identities. So my point of view is not broken up into this person's black, white, gay, straight, whatever. My point of view is not broken up into, Donald Trump says this and he is horrible. And so you can't necessarily say things or anything good about him if he does something. That's not the way I think. It's not simping. It's not pushing for anything other than the value set to which I hold and have held since I've started my channel. Has it evolved? Yes. Have I gotten more informed by the conversations I've had with various people around the world, or for that matter, here in the US? Yes. Has my value set changed? No. No. It's not simping. It's just being honest. Guess that's my main point. All right. I don't want this one to last long. This one has lasted for 18 minutes. This is longer than what I wanted this to go. But I did want to make the point clear. And I did want to kind of communicate my thinking in regards to my objective and what I'm trying to accomplish. And trying to accomplish sounds a little bit weird. It's just a value set that I espouse. And when I line it up to whatever I'm talking about, I come away with a certain point of view. That's my channel. No more, no less. That's my channel. We have a chat super sticker from Trash Panda. Shout out to you, Trash Panda. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I wanted to also test at my new location, weed and UFOs. Yes, weed and UFOs, Spider 77. All right, I'm going to end this. I'm going to say like, I'm going to say share, and I'm going to say subscribe. You guys have a phenomenal day. Definitely hit the like button if you enjoy the content. And I probably will see you a bit later. There are a few shows I want to do, and I want to work out the bugs and the kinks for my new setup. Have a good one all. Be safe.